you make a claim that the relationship moves from A to B, or the relationship moves from B to A. And that is an added difficulty for the policymaker, because the policymaker knows that if I win this year's election, I'm happy to change educational patterns. But should I change the educational patterns, or should I start making noise about educational patterns for it to be changed and for it to lead to people voting for me? This is the challenge for the politician. The third level of hypothesis testing is the extent of the direction. And if you look at how I've arranged them, the second one is dependent on the first one, and the third one is dependent on the second one. Look at the choice of the words. Nature of the relationship, direction of the relationship, and the extent of the relationship. What the Minister of Health is interested in is not telling the Minister of Health that go and buy bed nets. I said that earlier on. What the minister needs is that if I buy 100 nets, how many people would not get malaria? Thank you. And how fast would we reduce malaria infections? How many of us do research and place relevance to the number that we get? We run regression analysis. You get negative 0.2. How many of us interrogate the 0.2? And translate that 0.2 into whatever unit that you are using your analysis for. So you get a coefficient of 0.2. How does it relate to number of malaria incidents? How does it relate to number of HIV/AIDS patients? I read a number of articles and I always see these magnitudes, and people go ahead, and especially those in the health discipline, when they are interpreting the logistic coefficients, and you are using the odds and the factors, and you ask themselves, the odds of this is 2, of that is 2 compared to that. What does the 2 mean? How many other studies have found 10, and you are finding 2? For which reason we should query the 10 that is existing in the literature and say that your 2 is more robust, is more reliable than the 10. All that we do is to look at the relationships: bed nets, malaria, HIV, education. We don't put emphasis on the coefficient. The policymaker needs the coefficient. The policymaker wants to invest. He wants to train 10,000 doctors. What would the 10,000 doctors that Ethiopia is training now translate into as far as economic development is concerned? The magnitude, the extent. This is the kind of research that, from my point of view, we should be focusing on. Then the fourth level has to do with attribution. And again, as I said, I've chosen my words carefully. Earlier on, somebody said, it's difficult to say that my research has led to this impact. But the fourth level of research, hypothesis testing, is to say that if A had not happened, B wouldn't be where it is now. So here we're talking about the counterfactual. If A had not happened, B wouldn't be where it is now. And this is not just from the perspective of the nature of the relationship. It goes across the 3 strands: the nature of the relationship, the direction of the relationship, and the extent of the relationship. As I said, from my point of view, these are the reasons why possibly policymakers do not find our research interesting. Because we are still, I read a lot of PhD theses from Ghana and a few from South Africa, and a lot of them are at this level: nature of the relationship. Hardly do I see a PhD thesis that the problem is saying that the purchase of LLN has been overhyped. What is the full meaning of LLN? Okay. So can you test hypothesis that the impact has been overhyped? This is the kind of research that in Ghana, we have a number of policy interventions in there. We buy tons of them, and malaria rates are just about the same. So what is the optimal number that will make people use them? These are the questions that I'm asking. Maybe we are buying more than necessary. Maybe we are buying, maybe, as you are saying, it's an issue of compliance. So you study the direction of relationship and you look at whether they bought it or not. Then your estimation technique will not take into consideration the direction, where you're going to put into your equation whether people are using it or not. So colleagues, it's 14:30. These are thoughts that I feel that it's useful for us to think through if you are conceptualizing our research problem. If you are conceptualizing your research problem, ask yourself, am I really adding to knowledge? And one of the areas that you may want to look at is the kind of hypothesis that you are testing. Any question? Any contribution? It's 4:30, so I see people are tired already. We've reached the saturation point. The Banku is having its adverse effect. Okay. So thank you very much. If there are no questions, I think the first day has been pretty interactive, and I'm kindly requesting that the next 3 days we do the same. This is a matured workshop, so I'm appreciating the feedback and the support that you've given for the first day, and I request that we get the same tomorrow. So tomorrow, per the program, it says arrival of participants and recap of day 1 at 8 o'clock. Given that this is a matured class, I would request that we start at 8:30, isn't it? We start at 9. Okay, so let's do 8:30. Yes. Are we okay with 8:30? Yes.
Well, anytime is okay by me, but I just want to suggest that maybe my Nigerian brothers may want to leave back early, because I noticed that on Friday it's even ending at 4 o'clock. Some of us have to travel